There is no point, though, trying to hide from or shy away from the fact that you... I mean, I don't use the word iconic lightly. In fact, anybody watching this programme will know I never use it at all. Gosh. But in this instance, it is true. You've left an indelible impression on TV viewers, on popular culture, on everybody. There was something absolutely explosive and remarkable about you in your jumpsuit on television in 1982 with Treasure Hunt, because none of us had seen a woman behave like that on television in our lives. Can you explain the impact of it a bit?
Yes, I can, because it was very obvious to me, because women up to that time were either behind a news desk or they were draped over a car, selling something on the sort of Golden Shot, or Benny Hill was chasing them around the countryside and to a ridiculous soundtrack. And suddenly, pow, I was in a helicopter on top of a mountain, calling the shots, in control, a woman centre stage, and a very young one at that. And so it fed into my... I'm full of jeopardy anyway in my life, a sort of strange childhood, which sort of prepared me for this role in a way. And then once I'd done that for a few years, I thought, gosh, all that money that's gone into creating this amazing adventure entertainment, it was Channel 4's biggest rating programme ever. I thought, let's put that budget into a similarly exciting programme, high octane, will she, won't she, but actually do some good, So Challenge Anneka was born on the back of an envelope, and I literally went into BBC One and said to Michael Grade, who was then calling the shots there, what do you think?
We're seeing a few clips of that now. There you are, building something, doing something incredible, changing a neighbourhood utterly.
But do you know what? Are you listening to that?
No, you could talk over it.
Just coming into your studio today and seeing all these fine women.
Yes, we've got Ella, floor manager, we've got camera women, we've got all sorts of women working on the show.
When we started Challenge Anneka, we were all terribly young. We were all under 30, the producers, everybody, all of us. And we made it a purely female production team, which, again, unheard of. So, yes, I like to think that... I created a change in television. It certainly broke the mould of television and spawned all those programmes that came after, like DIY SOS, because nothing had ever been done with such jeopardy on television.
And you're still in touch with lots of the projects that you initiated then on Challenge Anneka?
They're like my huge Challenge family. Volunteers are my lifeblood. I love them. I whiz in and out of the projects the whole time. We did the most glorious project recently up in Birkenhead. We built an entire dementia village for dementia sufferers. And it was just glorious to see the volunteers streaming on to help. It was only 3 or 4 years ago.
I mean, we're going to be talking about dementia on the programme today. We're going to be asking, are you somebody who thinks that you will get dementia? So we're going to come to that in a minute. Now, I wouldn't be doing my job if I let you say something on my show like, I had this very precarious childhood and I ignored it and just moved on to something else, because people, I think, will feel they don't know much about your childhood. You sprung fully formed in your jumpsuit, you leapt out of a helicopter, and that's what we really know about you. I think people might not know.
I have had a very strange childhood. My parents were largely absent, so I brought up my little sister, basically. I was 11 when she was born, and I took her to nursery, then went to school, came back, fed her, looked after her. She got up in the night if she needed me. So I had all that sort of running under, But then I got accepted on a BBC training course when I was 17.
How did you impress them when you were just 17?
Because what happened, my boyfriend took me to the Generation Game. They were doing a recording and I was about 15. And
so
I
people
walked...
don't remember that. I mean, everybody will really wonderful Brucey
anyways,
and the conveyor belt and doing these peculiar tasks.
I had nothing to do with telly or anything, but I sat in that studio and thought, oh my God, it just affected me. Anyway, on the way home, this man in the road behind followed me out, and I got into John's car, and he took John's registration number, rang the DVLA, which in itself, it seems weird nowadays,
Driving Licence Association,
And he got John's number from the DVLA. He rang John, my boyfriend, and said, could I have the number of that girl you were with? And John gave it to him, and I met this bloke for a pint in Croydon, and I was at Croydon High School.
Yeah.
And he happened to be in the post room at the BBC. And And I said, I just long to work at the BBC. So he gave me the person to write to.
Gosh.
So, you know, I was really lucky because the personnel lady was just really, you know, she thought I was obviously far too young because I had lied about my age, which again, you could in those days.
Yeah.
But when I told her about my English O-level that I'd literally done when I was 14. The question was something like, do you think there'll ever be a time when women are in control and in charge of families and work?
Yeah.
And I told her how I'd just gone, yes, and put sort of a big sunshine round it and then, you know, elaborated with a sort of 3-page essay. Anyway, I think she just saw something in me that was sort of eccentric enough to work within the confines of this 2-year training course. So I was off. I was established as a journalist at a very young age.
From 17. I mean, amazing. You went to the Far East, you worked out there, you came back, you would.
But all these things you pick up in, you know, I really encourage people to feel part of something bigger themselves, because all these ideas you pick up as you go through life, they feed into something later. So Challenge Anneka came from working in a refugee camp in Hong Kong and then being the newsreader in Hong Kong and talking about these refugees and seeing how there was a huge desire for people to help, but they needed it was uncoordinated.
Do you think it would be fair to say that you really were the creator, the originator in this country of girl power long before the Spice Girls we even thought of? They probably weren't even born at that point. But you know, you were kind of emblematic of a woman, young, beautiful, in charge, kind of running the show, doing good in a very public way. You know, with a kind of conscience, and kind of looking incredibly sexy to loads and loads of men and some women presumably, and not caring about it, not focusing on it, not being. And you're not at all obsessed with how you look. I know you're not. I've known you for years. You're not into it, are you?
Not at all.
Not at all.
I'm not at all. Well, I do think it was extraordinary. But as I say, that person who started off doing treasure hunt in her 20s, had done a whole childhood of multitasking at home, looking after a sister, running a house. I'd done a whole 2-year training course at the BBC. I'd gone to Hong Kong to work. So 22 when I got the job on Treasure Hunt, or however old I was, I had such a big life behind me already, and it all feeds into it. Yeah. And I think, you know, all those qualities of multitasking and seeing a problem and wanting to fix it is sort of made for me, really.
I mean, you've forged an incredible path through life. You did a very brave thing at one stage, which was, right, I'm really, really famous. I'm on television every 10 seconds. Actually, I think I'll go and be an artist. Goodbye.
Yes.
No, who does that? No one ever dares to do that. Like, I'm actually closing my door. No, you're not welcome to come in. And even now, you are absolutely fearless in saying, there are parts of my life I really don't want to discuss with you, and I'm not discussing them. They're none of your business. Yeah. So don't ask me about them. I won't tell you. I would say, in a way, so kind of adored by the audience, and yet not at all a people pleaser. You won't necessarily just do the thing that people want you to do, will you?
Not some of the things you've discussed, no, but I will do anything for anyone who needs some help.
That's different, isn't it?
So does that mean people pleaser when I'm on a building
But does that mean you didn't really like being famous, or you did it and you'd done it, you wanted to do something else?
I didn't mean to be famous. You know, I started off as a journalist at the BBC. I was in Hong Kong in a newsroom for 3 years. You know, that wasn't my plan. So I've always had that sort of rather business side of my life. So the fame thing was just mad. And, you know, the 80s were mad because, you know, one moment Cubby Broccoli would be on the phone asking if I could come and audition for Bond.
Wow.
And I went along.
Did you?
I thought he meant to be Bond, not a Bond girl. So I said, no, thank you. I mean, mad. But I was very principled about
But there was a survey,
promoting
kind of
women.
International survey, sexiest woman in the world. Was it you or was it Madonna?
Oh no, it was... person most people would want to be.
Most people would want to be?
Was me and then Madonna. And then the next column was person whose job you most wanted, and it was Madonna and then me.
And how did you feel about that at the time?
Didn't even notice it at the time because there's just so much going on. You know, I was sort of hanging from a rope ladder in the foyer of Madame Tussauds at the time.
Of course.
So the whole... my life has been unusual, and I'm trying to sort of get it all together for this memoir, and it's almost impossible because there's so many bits to it.
And when you closed the door and did go off and do art and be an artist and everything else, and obviously you're extremely talented, and I'm not being someone who just has to say that, I don't, but you are. Did you enjoy that whole different kind of aspect of life?
I love it because I think, again, my childhood taught me to be a shapeshifter. I can be an emotional shapeshifter into any group. So I feel very cosy with everyone here. I'd like to take everyone out for lunch and we're going to have a lovely time. But equally on a building site, I'm so happy talking about electrics and the roof. And
does that mean you're not sure who you really are because you shapeshift, or you do know who you really are?
But I think because my childhood was so living on the edge, I learnt to shapeshift and just fit into communities and different pockets, and it's a skill born out of necessity, if you like.